Howdy folks, today we have this beautiful purple Strauss. It's a SRT-15, so it's similar to the green model that we had many months ago. Here you can see my initial inspection. There's a 12 ohm resistor, 10 watt, hanging off the speaker. So I've got the chassis out here and we're just having a look at that. What the hell? You know, I don't think I've ever seen that. So, you know, look at it. It's a 10 watt, 12 ohm resistor that was in series with the 8 ohm speaker. Now this amplifier is an 8 ohm amplifier. It's only got an 8 ohm tap coming off the output transformer. So anyway, I'm doing a little initial inspection here, just looking around at connections, at solder joints, inspecting over the amplifier. I'm not seeing anything horribly wrong so far. There's no burn marks, there's no particular issues that are sticking out. None of the components are bulging, they're not discolored. Everything seems to be okay, and right now I'm inspecting the tube sockets, and you can see this EL84 here appears, and then the one behind here, the EL84 sockets, and they're black. Look at them, they're just black. So the amount of heat that's been coming off this amp is real. And we're going to find out in a moment why that's the case. So the next thing I'm looking at is just the physical state of the tubes. And oftentimes when I see discoloration on tubes, I tend to wonder what they've gone through. Okay, so this amp is pretty much a cathode biased amp. It's 15 watt, you know, cathode bias, like I said. So, you know, really, there's not a lot of things that can throw the bias out here. Either the cathode bias resistor is gone wrong, or the tubes are gone wrong. Really, it's that simple. So looking at this one tube that I've pulled out, I mean, look at that. Look at the brown marks there near my fingers, and I'm also just checking the quality of the pins as well, corrosion and things like that. And if you look at this is the other tube that I've got here. And same sort of discolorations around the bottom. It's kind of weird how they're just a brown sort of line running down the side of the tubes there. You can see the pins here are slightly bent as well, so something's knocked it. Now here I've turned the amp on and tested it, and check that out. Red plating. Look at that top tube. In actual fact, what I did was I swapped the tubes around. So with the tubes swapped around, one thing I noticed is the red plating did follow the tube, so now it's the one down the bottom. I also did notice a volume increase and decrease with the amp doing that all by itself. Now I'm going to cut to live audio here, so there is going to be a difference in volume and tone. So when I turn the volume up there, you can actually hear my 1 kilohertz frequency coming through. That's coming through the output transformer and the load resistor I have sitting back here. Now this is a 15 watt amp, so I've got a 100 watt 8 ohm load resistor there. Listen carefully, you might hear the tone come through, and I think this tube is faulty, but check this out. So what I thought I'd do is check the bias of these tubes. Now currently there are 2 tubes that share a cathode bias resistor, and if we look at the schematic diagram here, we can see there's a 120 ohm 5 watt resistor. So going back to our bias calculator here that I've got, we're getting 115.8 ohms measured across that resistor and 10.27 voltage drop with a plate voltage of 295 volts. Which is giving us the following plate current, 43 odd milliamp, 44 milliamp, and a plate dissipation of 6.4 some odd watts. You can see there that an EL84 should run at about 8.4 at 70%. That's kind of what we're aiming for. You know, 100% is a maximum in a cathode biased amp, but you know, you can go less. That's giving us a percentage of about 54. So what I've done now is I've put in a couple of brand new JJ tubes, EL84s that I had laying around here, and I wanted to make sure they worked fine. Here's what the waveform looks like. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to compare the old waveform. However, that's going to change again when I change the 12AX7 preamp tubes as well. That's going to change things. You can see a bit of a crossover distortion there as well, and that's likely due to the relatively low bias. Now, the low bias is a good thing because you don't know what range of different tubes you're going to put in this amp over the years. Some will be biased higher, some will be biased lower. And if I was to rebias this amp at 100% right now, the next set of tubes might not bias the same way. They might bias at 120%. What I'm showing you right now briefly is a screen with the new tubes biased in there. We're actually running a lower bias, which is 51%, so down from 54. This is going to give us a little bit of less cleaner headroom, and this is just me showing you that the preamp tubes are working. However, I am going to replace them. Thumbs up. Apologies for the little bit of background noise there. There was a lot of stuff going around in the house at that particular time. But anyway, here's the amp. It's all done. You heard it being played. I seem to get a lot of requests for people who want to hear the amp after it's fixed. I kind of didn't want to copy some of the YouTube legends that fix amps online, but I know what you guys want, so I'm learning to play the guitar better and giving you guys a demo. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's basically the end of the video. Easy fix for this amp. However, you know, it's still a matter of sitting down and diagnosing things and looking, listening, taking measurements and seeing what you come up with. The best thing we can do with any tube amp before we go ahead and replace the tubes is make sure that the amp is operating at a healthy level. And what that means is checking the bias supply if it's a fixed bias, measuring the bias, you know, whether it's cathode biased or fixed bias or whatever. And the bias is the most important thing because that's what's keeping the tubes from melting, from running away. And that's basically it, you know, and getting your plate voltage and comparing everything. And you've got yourself a nice, reliable, clean running tube amp that's going to offer yourself or your customers, if you're heading off into a professional career in this, the opportunity to use their amp trouble-free for years to come. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening, for watching, for all their love and support. You know, my channel is slowly building. I'm starting to get some people commenting on videos, which is great. Unfortunately, I do have to apologize. Sometimes I do miss those comments, or I think I'll get back to that later when I get a notification, and I have forgotten, but I try to get back to all of you as best as I can. Again, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and see you in the next video.